Thursdays are production day for myself and Jill and our sort of little mini food line enterprise that we also do here at the Culinary Barn. And right now we're making somewhere between like a couple dozen different food products, sweet and savory, for a specialty food store in Wellington. Here is the cannelloni, now in store, available to take home and just reheat in your oven. And so that includes a lot of both the former Enid Cafe and the former Piccolina Mercato products that we made at both of those locations. So everything from lasagna to tiramisu, the Amaretti, of course, meatballs, soups, sauces, cream cheese, everything. So Jill and I parse it out on Wednesday, what has to be done when, and we make sure everything is done typically by 3 o'clock so that we can deliver on Thursday afternoons. So this is my best friend, confidant, work wife, psychiatrist, longtime colleague, master ball roller, meatballs and Amaretti, and just all around one of the best human beings ever. This is very nice. This is Jill.
Thank you.
Jill and I have known each other for over 20 years. We met in high school. I'm a couple years older than Jill, but we had a couple mutual friends. And I have memories of her just being very, kind of like a light. She was very bubbly and upbeat and always smiling, and she was very funny. But when I headed off to go to school, we just sort of lost touch with each other. And when I first opened Enid Cafe and I realized that it was going to be a much bigger and busier undertaking than I had envisioned, I put out an ad looking for some help.
Enid posted that she was looking for an apprentice, if you will, a pastry apprentice, to come and work with her at Enid Cafe. And I sent her an email. I just emailed her and said, I have no experience, but please take me. I would love to come and work with you in the kitchen. I wanted to learn pastry. I wanted to learn how to make bread. And I did not want to keep the job that I had. So I emailed her a whole thing. Basically, please save me, please take me. And she obliged. She said, okay, come in for an interview and we'll see what we can do. And I've been working with her ever since.
And we got along like a house on fire right away. We had a great rhythm in the kitchen, which is sometimes hard, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, sharing a small space. But we've always just had a good kind of cooperation together. We're sort of each other's left hand. She knows what I'm thinking or what I need, sometimes before I have to say it. She's such an incredibly hard worker and she's efficient. So, half the time, she's ahead of something so that I don't even have to think about it, which when you're in a really busy situation is so amazing to have.
My life changed from that point on because I was doing something that I was happy to do, and I was learning from somebody who was as passionate about it as I was, and somebody who worked tirelessly to make things exceptional.
At this stage in the morning, we are moving on to cannelloni. We've done our lasagna prep, and we're heading into our cannelloni with ricotta and artichokes. And we've got our beautiful handmade pasta sheets. We've got our filling. We've got a beautiful marinara sauce, fresh bechamel, some beautiful fontina cheese, and this beautiful spongy fresh fiore di latte. Cannelloni, typically region to region, is a vegetarian option. So you could switch up the filling with, we've done sun-dried tomato. In the cooler months, we might do roasted squash or pumpkin or something like that instead. So you get this lovely combination of kind of creamy, milky bechamel against the slightly acidic yet sweet marinara. And then we need to do another little topping here of marinara. And the secret is not too much sauce. They don't need to be swimming in sauce. We don't pre-cook our pasta sheets because we like to keep the texture of them. You don't want to risk overcooking them in the oven. So you need just enough sauce so that the pasta can absorb and cook all the way through. So this is fontina. Again, we want to be generous but not egregious with the amount of cheese. This gorgeous milky fiore di latte, and just take shards of it. These are going to probably be in there for about 28 minutes total because we want them cooked through, but not so brown that when our customers go to reheat them, they still have an opportunity to get extra brown on top without them burning. Okay, so that's that.
Yes, I would say I do roll most of the balls around here, whether they be cookie or meat.
She's a straight baller.
I am a straight baller. I mean, I do other things. Not straight balling. I have other talents, but this is certainly one of them.
I mean, I learned this recipe probably 20 years ago. Yeah, I learned it in Italy. I actually didn't learn it from a nonna. I learned it, I was in a restaurant in Emilia-Romagna, and I absolutely loved them. They had this perfect tenderness to them, but they weren't compacted, and they were a little bit crispy. And so, as I often do when I travel, but particularly in Italy, is I chat up, you know, the waiter or the hostess. Typically, I go to really small, independent, like little trattorias, osterias, family-run businesses, and kind of wedged my way into the kitchen simply by gushing about how good these meatballs were. Usually a pretty easy way to get into an Italian kitchen is just go on and on about how it's the greatest thing you've ever had, and requested the recipe. And of course, there is no recipe per se. I just watched them put a batch of them together and had to pay attention to what was going in, how they were putting it together. What I loved most about this recipe is they didn't fry them individually. They enrobed them in a little thin skein of flour and then put them in a really high oven. So there was no added fat per se in terms of frying them in oil, a really high heat in the oven, and they got this amazing crust on them. And just that impact of that bit of like salty umami on the outside, they were incredible. So I would suggest that not only are they our most requested thing, but they're probably the item we get the most comments on.
Yes.
And it really is a tribute to sort of me just
there was
watching
one
these masters make
person
them.
at Piccolina who loved the meatballs so much, like he, much like Enid did, came back into our kitchen and raved about the meatballs to the point where we started calling him Meatball Man. And when we closed at Piccolina, he like filled his freezer with our meatballs because he didn't want to miss out. But yeah.
And I've taught classes where I've taught people how to make the meatballs, and they'll always, a lot of them will send me emails and be like, I've made the meatballs and they're delicious, but we're just going to keep buying yours. Because as you can see, there's multiple steps.
There's a lot.
There's putting them together, there's hand weighing them out, hand rolling them. They get cooked for a long time. There's a lot of steps, but at the end of the day, they're very simple, like a lot of good cuisine is, but there's a little bit of love that has to go into each step to make sure they're executed so that consistency is never lost from one package to the next, and then all customers are happy. We can't miss the mark on something that people love so much.
Yeah.
With food production, it's so important that consistency is there because you have people expecting whatever they're buying to be what they were hoping for or potentially exceed their expectations. So we can't really, pull our foot off the gas pedal on just because we're tired or because we're making the same thing over and over again. It's really important to us that we keep our customers happy. And I can't, legitimately teach people about food if I'm not actively doing the best possible thing in my own kitchen. It would just be, pretty disingenuous to pass off rubbish food to the public and then claim to be, a teacher and so passionate about food. So each part of this business is equally important, and Jill really helps me execute the best possible product that we can to the general public. Our most popular pastry that we always made at Piccolina were our ricotta scones, and these continue to be fan favorites. So we make these for the shop in Wellington as well. You just have to take them home and bake them off. And same is true, we package up our all butter cornetti, as we say in Italy, but croissants as well. And again, people can just take these home and bake them off. So it's like having your own baker in the house in the morning, and all you had to do was nick them in the oven, and then your whole house just smells glorious. So these are also en route to Wellington today. We've learned over the years that, taking what you do in your own home or in a restaurant, which is your mise en place, kind of having everything that you're going to need, whether it's in your fridge or in your pantry, we just sort of go the next stage further and might spend one day doing almost what is considered pre-prep. So all the elements that we need in place so that the next day we can just come in and assemble everything. So our fresh pasta might be made the day before, our sauces might be made the day before, and then we can come in and just execute everything kind of like, now I've blanked on that word too. Like an assembly line, yeah, good one. So we can kind of put everything together like an assembly line. And that's just sort of true of everything we do here. Even when I'm preparing for my classes, I set up my mise en place for everybody before they arrive so they can see that, you can build your confidence in the kitchen step by step. And the first thing is making sure you have what you need, because that can often throw people off.
Yeah, if you start and you don't have something, you get halted.
Yeah. And so I use that as it's beautiful when people come in and see everything laid out in a nice way. It encourages you to want to cook. Just because it's a kitchen doesn't mean you can't lay it out beautifully and appreciate the ingredients you have and, set them out in a nice way, whether it's in a kitchen like this or at a kitchen in your own home, because it kind of invigorates you and inspires you to want to use those ingredients. And then pulling them together, ensuring you have the right quantity and they look beautiful. It really does give you the push to make the recipe. Because again, it's not just about serving your guests food that look nice. You need to appreciate and see everything come together in the nicest way possible, because it makes the whole experience more enjoyable for you as well. Definitely try one. Pre-sauced.
This is today's tester.
Cut it. So we have to check and make sure it's the right texture, it's moist enough, and it has the right.
Want me to feed it?
No.
Okay.
And,
Another time.
and it has the right amount of salt.
Mm-hmm. It's a good meatball.
Well, if the queen says it.
I pretty much say that after every single time.
I mean, there's cream, there's ricotta, there's
Parmesan.
parmigiano, there's basil.
Yeah.
There's a lot happening in there that make it extra good.
Enid and I work extremely hard here, but in a way that doesn't feel like working for us. I think because we have such a great working relationship and we both think about it very similarly, like we have work to do, it needs to get done. We're the only two people here, so let's just do it. But we do like to have a lot of fun. We like to joke. We have good banter. Enid is extremely talented, extremely funny, very smart, and very fun to work with.
She's 100% my best friend. I think she single-handedly knows more about me than anybody else. I can come in the morning with, stress or anxiety or something, and at the same time come in full of joy and excitement about another thing. And on the days when she perhaps isn't here, I miss her when I can't have that interaction with her in the morning. And that's coming from someone who actually likes her independence, likes her solitude time, likes quiet and having her own space. But I do miss her when she's not here. And not just because she cuts my workload in half, but I just love talking to her. And, you know, we like watching the same old shows from the 80s and 90s, and we put them on in the background and we talk over them and make fun of them and, you know, have memories about what our life was like when those shows were on. And it just keeps us both buoyed. And I think had she not come along on this third chapter in my kind of entrepreneurial culinary world, there would have been something missing from me here. I don't think I would have wanted to do it 100% alone.
I am rolling the Amaretti cookie dough. This sheet is my dough. It will make about 200 Amaretti cookies. I'll be doing that 3 times this week, so about 600. So essentially I just take all my dough onto a sheet tray. I put a parchment on top, parchment on the bottom, and I roll it out into a square like this so that when I have to portion it, I can cut off the pieces individually and go a lot quicker than if I were trying to scoop it out of a bowl. Then I cut them, I weigh them. Each one I want to be between 17 and 19 grams. So I'll just sit here with my dough and weigh it all out until all my sheets are full. And then I roll them all out smoothly. Pop them in the oven. This is definitely a Enid Grace signature in the community. The Amaretti are extremely popular. People come looking for them, and Enid used to give one out with every, well, still does. Anytime anybody comes and they're sitting for a coffee or espresso or tea, they get a little Amaretti cookie on the side as a little free treat. And Enid just gets them hooked on them. They have to come back for more.
My personal history with the Amaretti. So across Italy, there is kind of a different Amaretti per region. They get crispier and lighter the farther south you go. They would be the Amaretti croccante. The ones that we have mastered is the Amaretti morbido, which is popular in the Lombardia region. So when I was living there for a short period of time, I went to Di Serrano. That is where the Di Serrano, or North Americans call it Di Serrano, the amaretto is made. But in this town, in fact, most of the Lago region, they have their amaretti, and they're often served with coffee. In most Italian cafes, you often get a little something with your espresso or cappuccino, just a little bit of something. Sometimes it's a candy, sometimes it's a cookie. But I love this idea, and when I tried the Amaretti morbido, I much preferred it to the ones that you can crumble, which are great for other pastries and things like that, but I really liked this texture. So when I started Piccolina, I knew I wanted to give everyone that little touch of something small on the side of their coffee that made it more of a ritual, but also something that they could remember us by. And they became very popular very quickly, so much so that we had to start bagging them. And we've continued that with bagging them for our customers in Wellington and beyond Wellington. But it really is a tribute to this particular region and my time spent drinking coffee, eating these cookies. And much like everything I've learned in the Italian way, I kept going to the same cafe and I said, how are you making these amaretti? I knew it was marzipan, but I knew they weren't using store-bought marzipan. They were making it in a different way. And so I essentially watched them make it. And then when I brought it back to my team at Piccolina, I think we played around with the recipe for maybe a week or two till we knew it was perfect. And now we're just able to, well, Jill.
I do not have to look at this recipe ever again in my life. It's embedded in my brain. I can divide it. I can multiply it. I can make these cookies in my sleep.
Yeah. And again, it's something that is very easy to make. I have taught the recipe many times to students, and they certainly do make them, but it's much like the meatballs. It's like, we'll make them from time to time, but we'll just keep buying yours. And all I can say about that is I never stray from the recipe when I'm teaching it. It's not like I'm holding some secret ingredient back or some secret technique. I never do that to my students. But often why ours might taste slightly different is we've just done it so many times. Like, we know how to keep them perfectly consistent. But as my nan would probably say, there's just so much love.
There's so much love. Love is an ingredient.
That's the secret
and it's
ingredient.
an important one.
We've got an assortment of our lasagna and the cannelloni. This is our bolognese. And then this one is the montagna, our mountain style. So this is vegetarian, and instead of red sauce, this is all bechamel with beautiful fontina. We've got lots of marjoram, basil, and again, we've got our fresh spinach pasta on this one. Our fresh butter tarts, again, all butter pastry, and my grandmother's secret butter tart recipe. We've got our walnut yogurt. This is a big fan favorite. Our tiramisu, perfect little jar for maybe 2 people to share, but let's be honest.
Yeah, people are definitely just eating
They're just eating it.
Yes.
This is a throwback to the Enid Grace Cafe days, where the most popular thing we sold was our homemade Montreal-style bagels with this cream cheese with capers and lemon and dill. And then we did it with smoked salmon, and it was our biggest seller. People were very upset when we stopped doing that. And then we do a classic bolognese sauce without tomatoes added to it. This is a secret for our particular recipe, and it's closer to the actual original bolognese sauce. And then we also make our Ligurian style pesto, classic with sweet basil and garlic, parmigiano, best quality olive oil, salt, pepper, and pine nuts. And this was also very popular at Piccolina, so we still get lots of requests for it. So that goes to Wellington as well. So one of the best secrets to making French pastry dough, or pâte à sucre, which this is specifically the sweet pastry dough, is when you're making it by hand, you never want to really compress the dough together. So much so that I put it into the fridge in these very kind of loose, just slightly shaped discs of dough so that they can get cold again. And when they come out of the fridge, I purposely just let them fall apart into kind of large crumbles, and then take the dough and quickly, because I don't want to warm up the butter, bring the dough together into a ball. If you overwork pastry dough, whether it be French pastry or pasta frolla, which is the Italian pastry dough, you really risk giving up a very tender, flaky, buttery crust in lieu of something where the butter has melted, and you end up with a crust that kind of you can knock off a board and it'll just shatter, as opposed to being light and flaky. And it's no secret that, I mean, at this point I would be considered a professional pastry chef just on hours alone. But, you know, it didn't come without making several failures and mistakes early on. I didn't just know how to do this. I had a knack for it, but I still had to learn. I had to study immensely. I had to watch people intently, and I just tried and tried and tried. And trust me, there were several mistakes that, you know, I don't even know that I would have given to the pigs to eat. They were just so bad. But you have to go through that, because without the failures, you can't possibly understand how to correct what went wrong. Like, you're forced to try and understand. All right, these gals here are our torta caprese. We used to make this every day at Piccolina. So this is, as it happens, a gluten-free cake, but a lot of Italian tortas are made with ground almonds. So this one just happens to be from Capri. So it's capriotte. So ground almonds, really good quality chocolate, touch of espresso, egg whites, sugar, and it just, again, kind of like the meatballs, sort of ends up with this miraculously moist but not wet texture. It's dense but still light. It's deep chocolate flavor but not too sweet. And this is actually more preferred as a breakfast item in Italy, particularly if you leave it on the counter for a day or two, and the sides get a little firmer, and it's great for dipping in your espresso in the morning. But again, fan favorite. Not a week goes by where we don't get several requests for whole cakes of this. So we oblige. We are each other's confidant. So it's, you know, being able to come to work and essentially have your most trusted ally be your colleague, but also be almost like your hype person as well. And we are that for each other, I think. And so we've had this long 20-year plus relationship. With the exception of maybe a few moments of tension between each other, we've never, I don't think, she might say differently, but we've never had an argument. We just respect each other immensely and know what each other needs from our relationship as co-workers, but also as friends. And we've always been able to separate the two, but in this new setting, it's actually quite beautiful with what we've been able to do. We work together efficiently, but the essence of a relationship, if you were to walk in, as many people have, and see the way we are with each other, it's just like a couple of girlfriends just hanging out, but getting stuff done. All that food and you're being so good. He's like, oh, Mama, this stuff's so warm.
All right.
That's everything?
I think that's everything. The ad for coming to work with Enid drew me in because I found myself in my downtime baking bread, trying to learn how to make pastry. In my kitchen, learning about cooking. When I had free time, I wanted to be in the kitchen. And so it made sense to me that while I had a job that I really didn't like and I didn't enjoy, maybe this is a job that I would really love. I didn't know for sure, but it turns out, yes, it was. And so now I feel so lucky and so indebted because I get to come and I do something that I love every day and I get paid for it. And as it turns out, I also get to do that with my best friend.